There's killers on Halloween, but you never know that sometimes there are killers out on Christmas out to punish the naughty people. Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new Christmas movie review, and the final Christmas movie review of the season, and that is going to be for easily another Christmas horror movie, and it's for a Christmas slasher film, where this time instead of a killer snowman, it is a killer Santa on the loose for this one. It was released in 1984, and it was very controversial with many people upon release. That is going to be for none other than 1984's Silent Night, Deadly Night. Yeah, that film. So let's applaud this. Well, after seeing his parents murdered in front of a young boy, a young boy spends most of his life in an orphanage where he's abused by a mother superior. When he becomes a teenager, he gets a job as a toy store Santa. When seeing two people having sex in a store, it brings on flashbacks of his parents, and the story leads him to become a Santa-dressed serial killer, just like the person who killed his parents was. So, how was this made? Well, the concept of the film was pitched by executive producer Scott J. Shilland, who at the time accepted screenplay ideas and submissions from the public. One of these was a short story titled He Sees You When You're Sleeping, written by a Harvard University student named Paul Kaimi. The story was about a killer Santa Claus, and Shine was impressed with the concept even though he disliked slasher films. He then contracted with Michael Hickory and requested him to write a screenplay based on the short story, which he agreed. Afterwards, Hickey sent the screenplay to TriStar Pictures, who were pleased with it and agreed to finance and distribute the film. And the film's working title during production was Sleigh Ride. It was to be produced by Sleigh Ride Productions, Inc. The producer, Richard Barmack, was recruited by TriStar, who produced the film. The executive producers Scott J. Shine and Dennis Whitehead were hoping to hire a new young director who would be the next John Carpenter, and considered Sam Raimi, Albert Magnoli, and Ken Kawatz for the position. And TriStar expressed interest in television producer Charles E. Seller Jr., who was well known for producing The Life and Times of Grizzly Adams, motion picture and TV series. And Shine and Whitehead disagreed, believing that a veteran producer would not give the film a good look and reputation. But TriStar insisted and eventually hired Seller for the position. Principal photography, believe it or not, from during the Christmas season, principal photography for this movie actually lasted from March to April 1983, and it was shot on location in Heber City in Midway, Utah. At the time, most of the snow was beginning to melt, so the production crew raced to shoot all exterior shots first, and numerous buildings were used for the interior scenes during filming. The orphanage building was an abandoned schoolhouse that was renovated by the crew during production. It was then demolished not long after filming concluded, and the Iris Toys building was a vacant building that was rented out by the crew. Now, in 2022, it still stands as currently a gym. During filming, Charles E. Seller Jr. was so uncomfortable shooting the murder sequences, and it resulted in editor Michael Spence to come in as a stand-in director for these scenes. So anyway, after Silent Night, Deadly Night was completed and finally being able to be released to the public, the film would go on to be released by TriStar Pictures on November 9th, 1984, where it received some really massive controversy over all the material and the content. And it featured, because the movie featured a killer Santa Claus. In addition to receiving mixed reviews, it was pulled from theaters literally a week after its release. However, But it was still a success during the opening week, because opening week it made $2.5 million on the budget of $750,000. Since the movie's release, it's actually grown a bit of a cult following, and it spawned a series with 4 sequels. But 4 or 5 apparently have no connection to the first film, and it has a loose or not really connected remake in 2012. And then another reboot is said to be in development, and I hope it does not happen. As for my reaction, well, like the last review, Jack Frost, this was the first time watching me. I watched it last night, and how was it? It was a pretty good horror film with a killer Santa Claus. It stepped away from the producing biblical TV movies. Charles E. Seller Jr. showed a wicked eye for splashing his screen in Santa Red. This was shot during a long winter, and Seller used outdoor locations to give the title an excellent winter feel, with the snow-covered paths creaking as Billy walks towards his next victim. From the first minutes you know who the bad guy is going to be. And being a low budget, it still delivers on all parts. It's enough slaying and nudity for everyone in this feature. And the extremely memorable slasher movies that motivated many people to righteous fury with the gleefully tasteless content, it's a course for certain tastes only. And if you favor any movie that turns the holiday season on its head, and delight in the dark and disturbing and trashy and silly to boot, the movie's a must-see. Part of what makes it work so well is the sympathy one can feel for the antagonist. Like, Wilson is very effective in the role of Billy, and those children playing Billy at younger ages do a fine job as well. Regarding the trash content, like, viewers can take pleasure in The Fresh Berry by Tony Nero, Tara Buckman, especially Lenny Gugli, who has one notoriously ridiculous scene where she opens the door on a cold night wearing next to nothing, and whose demise is easily the best demise of the whole thing. The gory violence is even parceled out carefully, but quite enjoyable when it comes. It's one of the best Christmas-themed horror movies I've ever likely witnessed, along with Black Christmas. Like, I was surprised at how well made it actually kind of was when I just watched it recently. It's quite completely put together, and for an 80s low-budget slasher, it's very measured and slow burning of how it tells the story. I definitely would find it fun with the glorious little title with the animated blood popped up, and it's a classic touch, and it tells a story in a very straightforward and even blunt manner. As opposed to most slasher movie killers where you only learn who they are, what their same motivation is in the last 10 minutes or so. Like, this movie establishes everything that happens in the killer's life in the first hour, and twists him from innocent child to ex-wheeling maniac, and leads up to his Christmas Eve night of terror. His progression is layered, and it forces you to sympathize and relate to the killer as a character despite the horrific things he does. And the best part of the film is that the action comes into play quite early in the film, and manages to retain its laughable shock value throughout. Although the gore is relatively mild, the kills are pretty creative, and the special effects are excellent and very realistic, and it's good attention paid to little details. The acting was also rather good. Robert Brian Wilson, who plays Billy in this movie, is very believable. The sad thing is, though, his career just never really started, and he would quit acting in 1992. But, and of course, having kids see how their parents are killed is always a bad thing to see. And the acting in the beginning, when Billy's watching this criminal dressed up as Santa Claus killing his parents, is another great part to see. It's mixed with this great score, and a lot of flashbacks towards the killing of Billy's parents. There's even a bit of amount of social commentary wrapped up in here, like the ridiculousness of traditional Catholic discipline. You throw in some bullies and miserable coworkers getting murdered, and this film is even sort of therapeutic for those of us who are definitely traumatized by types of pricks like this. The story is also very well done. If there's a problem with the story, though, it's Billy doesn't doesn't really spend more time once he goes on a Santa Maria rampage, and he doesn't really go into the film breaking into random homes on Christmas Eve. Like, there's only one random home break-in, and that's not really enough. That's the only time he breaks into any homes. And the scare factor would definitely have ratcheted up if the producers took advantage of these home invasions on Christmas Eve here. That could have actually made this whole thing work. The producers knew full on what kind of sleazy, offensive movie they were making here, and they don't try to make it out to be anything other than that. And that's why I actually really do love this movie. It's honest and it's real. Not like most of the fake stuff Hollywood has been making today. Here, I mean, or most of the later bad slasher sequels we would probably get after their first installments. And from a technical perspective, no one really could have asked much more from a budget of this size. The directing, the cinematography, editing, and sound are all the very least average. And what more can you ask for a movie of this stature? I mean, like, they weren't trying to win an Oscar with this film. And the sound score was pure 80s beauty, especially in the murder scenes. Because speaking of the murder scenes, the movie has some really gory ass kills in this one, and some brutally disturbing moments. Some of the biggest examples are a guy gets hung by Christmas lights, and blood is seen coming out of his neck, even. The woman gets stabbed with a knife and sliced upwards in her stomach, and blood gets seen. And a guy has his head smashed in with a hammer, a splash of blood hits a box, and a woman is shot with an arrow, and some blood is seen. Then, when we have the only home break-in we have, this teenage girl gets impaled on deer antlers, and you see antlers pierce her stomach and come through her skin, and you see the blood ooze out. Then her boyfriend also gets killed shortly after. And of course, and easily, the best murder scene is by far the moments when Billy is in the woods, the two bullies steal the kid's sled, and when they're deciding to use the stolen sleds, one comes down the hill nice, but the other, that guy is like sliding down, and then Billy the Santa Claus costume appears, and he immediately says, "Naughty!" and he slashes the guy's head off. Right there. Now that is up there with the home break-in for the best kill of the movie. Those two scenes right there really make up the great kill. And a teenage boy even gets thrown out the window, and he has chunks of glass in his stomach. Yeah, this movie is sleazy, graphic, and even controversial with many, that it even got pulled from a lot of public cinemas because of the controversial content and idea at the time. When you watch this movie, like, the killer Santa stuff, it doesn't really come more until around the end, and the killing spree is enjoyable, how does it all end? Well, it all starts when, after Billy's all grown up, he seems like he's normal, and then his boss asks him to dress up as Santa Claus for the final, Christmas prep of their shop. Then they're about to celebrate, they're about to have their little Eve party in the shop that they're closing down for the season, or for the night, or for Christmas. Billy's still in his Santa Claus suit, and he tries to have a good time. So there's a little hope right there, but sadly, he keeps having memories of his parents' murders, and it causes him to feel depressed. He sees one coworker making out with another coworker, and they walk into the back room, and Billy walks after them, and sees that coworker trying to rape the female coworker, and this triggers his insanity, and he hangs Andy with a string of Christmas lights, and declares his punishment is good, and he murders Pamela with a box cutter. And then next, Billy murders Mr. Sims, and then murders his boss, Miss Randall. And Sister Margaret then discovers the carnage, and she returns to the orphanage to seek help. Billy then breaks into the house where the murder in the house happens, and you see this young couple having sex, and one little girl that lives in that household is watching. He impales the teenage girl on a set of deer antlers, throws her boyfriend through the window. This awakens Cindy, and Billy asks if she's been nice or naughty. She says nice, and he gives her the box cutter he had used earlier. So I like he didn't kill the kid. Like that he did not kill the kid, and he let the kid live. And then after that, he witnesses bullies picking on two teenage boys. He steals their sleds, then that murder scene happens, and it's fucking awesome. Then the next morning, the orphanage is secured, with Officer Barnes and Captain Richards, and they're aided by Sister Margaret. Knows Billy's committed the murders, and the death pastor, Father O'Brien, who's also dressed in a Santa outfit, gets shot by Barnes because they mistook him for Billy. So then Barnes continues patrolling the area, and he's struck in the chest by Billy's axe. Billy confronts Mother Superior, who's now in a wheelchair of old age, and she taunts Billy due to her disbelief in Santa Claus, and just as he prepares to kill her, this whole scene right there, when he has the axe, he's about to walk there, and he's saying naughty, which he says most of the sequence for the rest of the film. I was like, yeah, kill her. Kill the bitch. Kill this abusive bitch. Because Mother Superior is a nasty person in this movie, and she was not pleasant to watch in the slightest at all. But sadly, because Billy takes too long to just get to the killing blow, one of the cops just shoots him in the back, and then Billy drops to the floor and tells the children, You're safe now. Santa Claus is gone. Before he dies from his injuries. But then, of course, well, in the beginning scene, when Billy and his parents go to visit his comatose grandfather, his grandfather then regains some consciousness, and well, he tells him about Santa Claus bringing presents to good kids, but also punishing younger kids who don't behave on Christmas. And then this makes obviously Billy worried that Santa Claus seeing and punishing them. Then of course you see the criminal dressed up as the Santa Claus, murders his two parents, and then he runs off, and his little brother, who's named Ricky, is left in the car. And at first, he seemed like, well, Ricky is dead, but maybe the killer Santa killed him off screen if he got left in the car. No, it turns out like Ricky did survive, and he also was at that orphanage school with Billy, right there. So I'm glad that at least the baby didn't die, and it survived. But it's now 14 years old. And he's coldly staring at Mother Superior, and he utters naughty. Maybe she will die. Maybe she will die off screen by his brother, who is likely going to become the next killer Santa, and the cycle is going to continue. So yeah, in all honesty, it ends on a tragic note for our lead. Because our lead saw a criminal or mugger dressed up as Santa on Christmas Eve, murdered his parents, then got sent to an abusive orphanage, and when he does try to move on, having to dress up as Santa Claus at his new job, gives him back memories, and he starts killing those closest to him, and it costs him his life, all because of what his grandpa said to him about Santa and naughty children. Yeah, it's real tragic for our lead. Would there be any bad qualities with the story? Well, alright. Yeah, there would be. I will admit, since this is a controversial movie, there were some rapey moments and overloaded nudity in here that I feel like I did not really enjoy watching, or was not really needed. Yeah, you're a sleazy movie, but don't be too sleazy with all the rapey stuff. It's because the rapey stuff made me feel like I was watching some Christmas version of I Spit on Your Grave. I thought I was watching a Killer Santa movie, not I Spit on Your Grave, the Christmas version, for a second. And that's not a good compliment to say, guys. Comparing a movie to I Spit on Your Grave, that's not a compliment at all. And of course, when it comes to Billy's killing spree, it doesn't even happen until the finale, and it takes a bit of time to get to. If it's a slasher film of a killer Santa, I thought this would have happened a bit quicker. And once he does become that killer Santa at the very end, all he says most of the time is says naughty, naughty, naughty. That's all he ever says during his killing spree. He doesn't really say anything else. That's just it. And the ending with the final shots, not that the lead died, I hate that Mother Superior didn't get axed first, and then Billy could have just been shot after. Then he could have shot Billy after he killed Mother Superior. I would have liked that better. I hate this bitch gets to survive. I do not like that idea. No. This awful person did not deserve to live. She's a piece of shit the whole movie. She's abusive to her kids. Abusive to the kids in that school. Even beats one couple for having sex. No. She should have gotten the axe. She should have gotten the axe for all her abuse. She should have died as good payback. But no. Instead, we had to be all bleak with that, and we don't get to see that happen. But if there is a good side, though, it could be implied that Ricky does kill her afterwards. So, you could pretend that Ricky does kill her off screen. But all in all, guys, Silent Night, Deadly Night, it's a good holiday horror film, a good Christmas slasher film. It's up there. It wouldn't be better than, let's say, the original Black Christmas, but it's still a pretty good flick nonetheless. Good Christmas horror film nonetheless for horror hounds. In the end, I would definitely recommend buying Silent Night, Deadly Night anywhere you can find it, or if you're if you are able to, because it is an example of a Christmas slasher done right. But if you can't find it, it is on YouTube, again, like with Jack Frost. And honestly, I hope that Terrifier 3 can really live up to something like this movie did. Next year, seeing a killer Santa, well, technically that's Art dressed up as Santa Claus, but get to see even more of it in Terrifier 3. More of it done even better in Terrifier 3. Having Art be a killer Santa. Anyways, that's it for my view of Silent Night, Deadly Night. If you're wondering how I'm going to rank Silent Night, Deadly Night, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you would like to see a killer Santa Claus movie, then this is the movie for you if you are into Christmas horror films and want to see more of that stuff if you're a horror hound. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Silent Night, Deadly Night, I'm going to give Silent Night, Deadly Night a 7.5 out of 10. There we go. That wraps up my review for Silent Night, Deadly Nights. So, that wraps up all my Christmas reviews for this season. And then, yeah. Happy holidays, everybody. And be sure to stay tuned for the Christmas story, or the Christmas story read-along video that happens on Christmas Eve. And so, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. Happy holidays, everybody. If you like this and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.